What can I say? Welcome to the month of December. All right, in today's exciting video, we have a Kent Bayside cruiser dropped off at our fine facility. I'm going to take a educated guess. They tried to do it themselves, put the bike together, all that good stuff. Found out a little harder than they thought it was going to be. So what can I say? Here it is. These fine folks have dropped off a box of stuff. What appears to be one of those YD100s. I personally saw them in videos. Never owned one. Don't have one on my bike, but we're going to put one on this Bayside cruiser. See how this works out. When they first dropped it off, I found it was kind of interesting that the brakes were in the back. But it turns out to be, they have the handlebars on incorrectly. The wheel should go that way, and that is why the handlebars are facing backwards. Then I saw this little adaptation here. I don't know what that was about. The customer did explain it to me, but I still didn't quite catch why we hacked off the fender, but I guess that's not important because we're going to take that off and lose that bad fella anyway, because that is just an accident waiting to happen, digging into the tire, what have you. Has no rear bracing because has no half a fender. All right, well, let's set that motor up there and see what we got before we get started. I haven't gotten started yet. I'm going to go through the entire bike because I think every nut and bolt is probably loose or installed incorrectly. So we're not going to send whoever this is out riding with a bike we're not sure of. So we're just going to start from the front and work our way to the back. So let's set that motor on there and see what we got to do to get started. After some heavy rifling through the box to find the rear engine mount spacer, got that dude setting up there. As per usual, with the fatter tube bikes, engine doesn't just pluck right on there. For those who used to build these back in the day with the different style bikes, remember when they used to pluck on there and save you a little time and tribulation? Well, those days are gone. So if you're a person at home trying to put the motorized bike kit on your bike, you are going to need the motor mount for the fat tube bikes, or it's not going to happen. Myself, I'm going to make a steel motor mount, weld it to the bike frame. I like to do that because it holds the engine a lot better than the U-bolt setup or the plate around the U-bolt setup, or even if this did fit the frame, the clip around the frame setup. I don't know the technical terms for all that stuff, but if you've ever fooled with these, you understand what I'm talking about. So anyway, I'm going to make that mount, remove the back wheel, check that out, make sure everything's tight and up to speed like it's supposed to be. Because I don't know who assembled the bike, but when my first sign is the forks are backwards with the handlebar, that's a red flag for me to just start at the beginning and check every nut bolt, make sure everything is where it's supposed to be. So anyway, let me get the rear sprocket on the back wheel. And when I say rear sprocket, I mean for the drive chain. For those who are new to the gas-powered bike assembly, and not those who already know, because when I say rear sprocket, if you've done it before, you already know. All right, well, let's get to building that mount. I will get the sprocket on, make sure the chain is 100% lined up before I permanently weld the bracket for the front engine mount, and we'll start to get this dude looking like a motorized bike. Ah yes, you can see some progress has been made. Okay, I personally started out at the front, being everything was askew and the handlebars were facing the wrong way and the seat was loose and spinning. As I said earlier, I'm just going to take it from the top, make sure I give the customer a completely assembled correctly bicycle to the best of my ability anyway. So I tightened up the wheel nuts for the front axle. They were loose. Straightened up the handlebars. Got them facing the correct direction anyway. They're all tight and secure. So are the forks. Then I move back here to the engine. Now this engine, as you can see, does fit on here, but it does take a little engineering and design. I'll tell you why I did it the way I did it. It might help you do yours if you're going to try and put one of these YD100 engines on a Bayside cruiser or any other bike that has a similar frame. The problems you may or may not run into. But I tightened up the seat, worked my way to the back. Every nut and bolt is tight, so don't have to go back and check that out. Anyway, back to the engine compartment. Now, I had a front universal mount, the one that is pretty much an adapter mount, if you will, where it hooks to the fat part of the frame down here, clamps around it, and then bolts to your engine mount in the front of your bike engine. But that got the engine way too up in the frame. Couldn't get the carburetor on at all. Would have had to use the offset intake, the one that curves over and hooks to that, for those who've never seen one yet. Get your carburetor out of the web of the frame here. Gets it off to the side so you have room to run your carburetor. They work just fine if you have to go that route. I'm just not a big fan of them. I don't know why. Could be my own personal pet peeve, if you will. But anyway, so I thought, well, I'll put a little more design in it. As you've seen earlier, the studs that come out of the engine did not fit over top of the frame. So placing the engine dead on the frame was not an option. I have seen people in the past take the old ball peen hammer and beat the frame so the studs fit. I can't do any work that way. I'd have to hate myself, and I got enough problems like everybody else, so I don't need to hate myself for that, so I'm not doing that. But I have seen it done. It's just not attractive. But anyway, so after some careful placement and some measuring, I went with the steel welded mount to the frame as I had always intended and planned. It's kind of dark in there. Can't really show you the weld part too much, but you can see the plate adapter on the frame. What I had to do with it, let me get down here, maybe I can show you a little better, is had to put a 3/16 rib on the plate before I put it on the frame. If I just put the plate on the frame, it was not going to fit correctly because the engine studs were going to be into the frame, and then I wouldn't be able to install them, / they'd be jammed into the frame and wouldn't be tightened down correctly. So, like I said, with a little careful measuring, 3/16 would get it. So that's what I did. And I can still remove the nuts. I have enough clearance for them to spin. See if it'll focus in on that part. And get them on there correctly and tightened up. And doing it this way allowed me to run the carburetor in its natural habitat, if you will. Still has plenty of room to be removed without removing the engine when necessary, if necessary in the future. Because I have had bikes where the engine was so tight in the compartment, to take the carburetor off, you had to take the engine off, and if you had to work on the carburetor anytime, that was just a pain in the butt. So if you can get to your little room and not have to disassemble the whole engine to change carburetors or fix one or get some dirt out of one, that is a much nicer process, because it's already a bad day because you have to take carburetor off anyway. All right, other than that, Everything else is tight, aligned, and ready to roll. So I will take the next step and get my accessories put on the handlebars. Get my throttle installed, my 2-in-1 brake lever. I like the 2-in-1 brake lever, especially when you're doing someone's bike that has the caliper style brakes on it. It pulls both front and rear brakes at the same time. I've seen people and heard people complain about certain builds that they didn't like the 2-in-1 brake lever because it would apply the front brake before the back brake or vice versa. And that is just misaligned adjustment, because you can adjust it so the front brakes come on after the back brakes when pulling the lever. That way, if you have to stop abruptly, the front wheel doesn't lock up on you first. You don't want that. Okay, having said that, I'm going to get the accessories on this bike. I didn't show everybody every inch of this build because I have other videos, if you scroll through my page, where I build the entire bike for you to watch if necessary. Hopefully it helps you build your bike, gives you a little hint or a idea, if you will. So I did not bother to do that this time. Okay, enough jawbone moving. I'm going to get back to work on this and get it finished up, and we'll see how it does. What can I say? Once again, a finished product. The YD100 engine is successfully installed. Here's our final product. A quick walk around. We'll drag it outside, see if she fires up. Got its 2-in-1 brake lever installed. It's important to be able to stop it. That is the most important thing. So let's take this bad fella outside and see if she'll fire up. Well, hopefully you can hear me over the roar of the engine. But as you can see, she fired right up. Had to full choke it at the beginning because it is a cold day here. Not that you can tell that from the video. Let her idle a little bit on half choke. I think I have her choked just a little bit now. It has only been running about a minute in its entire little life here. The idle will smooth out after it warms up and gets through a few heavy cycles and a little break-in time. So if you built yours and your idle is a tidbit erratic, don't worry about that right off the get. Get out, get a little running time on your engine and your bike. You can always go back and double check everything later. But if you start adjusting everything now, you don't know where you don't have a problem. But other than that, this one's running as they do brand new. A lot of times they, like I said a moment ago, they want a little break-in time for the piston rings to meet the cylinder, and all the rest of the parts will get a little heat in them and seal. But other than that, I'm going to take it for a block ride. I don't ride them very far. Just a quick check to make sure everything's functioning as it should be. And then it's the customer's job to go home, enjoy it, ride it, and break it in. In closing for today's YD100 installation on a Kent Bayside cruiser. First, if you're building your own, doesn't matter if it's 50cc, 80cc, one of those 85s I think I saw here lately, or this here YD100, give them a little run time before you start adjusting and cranking on everything. Each little motor needs to run a little bit because they're all brand new and they need to come into their own before you start doing a bunch of crazy adjustments on it right off the bat. It'll just drive you crazy if you start doing all kinds of adjustments, and after they break in a little bit, a lot of that might have been unnecessary. Also, before everybody blows up my comment line, this is a customer's bike that brought it into me and just wanted it assembled. I was not paid to upgrade anything. If I did have a YD100 as of such that I was riding myself, I would definitely upgrade the braking system. These bikes have a lot more power than the old 50s and 80s, a lot more top speed, takes a lot more to stop it. Well, at least to stop it safely and in a shorter distance. So no, this is not my everyday rider. I will suggest that to the customer. He might want to do that in the future and bring it back and have a brake system put on it. I don't know. I can't speak for them. Other than that, this concludes another bike build. The YD100 with a little engineering and ingenuity will properly go on a Camp Bayside cruiser and function the way it is intended. One last little look around. That way, if you at home are going to try to do one, maybe you see something on this particular bike that will help you get yours done faster, or a problem taken care of if you're having a hard time getting it on there, because the 100 does take up a little bit more room than the others. It does take a little more finessing to get it installed on that bad fella. Okay, well, if I don't see everybody before Christmas, I hope everybody has a good Christmas. I know this customer's going to on their bike till it gets too cold to ride anyway. It's cold out there, but a lot of times that don't stop us. So everybody have a good Christmas. Take care of yourselves. Ride safe. Don't be weaving in and out of traffic on your new motorized bike, getting yourself hurt. All right, until the next exciting build, which I haven't decided what that one's going to be yet. Stay tuned. I appreciate the subscribe and hit the like button, because we've all heard about the old algorithm, and who doesn't want a happy algorithm on their page? Okay. Take it easy.